What is up, everybody? Welcome back to Classroom Yaps. Today, I want to talk about how I have recently just started watching No Reservations with Bourdain again, Anthony Bourdain. And one thing that sticks out to me is how his style really predated a lot of what we know as vlogging today. And I'm sure somebody's going to go, well, actually, there was somebody doing it before him. But at least to my knowledge and to my memory, Bourdain was somebody that was really just going out in the world and exploring these grittier things on a uh, more massive scale. Um, when I started watching No Reservations, it was actually several years after I had bought his book Bone in the Throat. I had bought his book Bone in the Throat just randomly. I didn't really know much about Anthony Bourdain at the time. I didn't know about Kitchen Confidential or his show that preceded No Reservations. But then I was channel surfing as we used to do, and I came across his show on Travel Channel, and I just fell in love with it. Right, I put the names together from the book and the show, and I'm like, let me check this out. So yeah, I did fall in love with it, and it was right at that time. Like, I was 19 years old. I wanted to try different food. For lack of time and money, I couldn't really travel in the way that Bourdain was traveling. However, it really felt like Bourdain was bringing that part of the world into my room. And that's what was so beautiful about his show and so funny and warm, is that even though you can see on his face that there are places he doesn't necessarily want to be, he is really trying his best to deliver a really entertaining show, in that people are going to learn something, people are going to find out something they never knew. And, you know, kind of veering off here, I really do believe he is one of the voices of reason that we just don't have today in public. I think when he passed, there was really this open space that I felt open up in the world. And it hit me. It hit me like it hit a lot of people, because again, he was somebody that was like, hey, there's this other side of things around the world that you're just not seeing, and here they are right for you to see. And as I'm watching the Vietnam episode uh, last night, he is going into these really questionable places where they're serving something called squeezle. uh, he doesn't know what it is. They're not telling him right off the bat. And you can see on his face, he's wondering if he should even eat it. As the woman is cooking it, they are showing him a variety of drinks, uh, liquor, and some of them are fermented with mouse stomach, uh, the carcass of a dead bird. And he's wondering if he should partake, and he always does. Uh, him partaking in these cuisines, these dishes, even though on his face he's a little apprehensive about it, he was always willing to do so. And again, as I'm watching this show, I'm looking and seeing this is a modern day vlog. From what I remember of Travel Channel, um, they would often go to like really kitschy places, right? They would always show the glam of life, and they would never show the grittier parts of the places they were going to. And I think when Bourdain got there, you had Andrew Zimmerman, you had, his name escapes me, but Man versus Food. Um, you had these other hosts that were doing something different, right? I could appreciate those other shows for what they were, but at least with Bourdain, he was sitting down and, you know, talking and having conversations with whoever the show would set up for him, of course, but he was also like very warm to the people that would come in his vicinity. Um, and you see, because again, as I'm seeing this Vietnam episode, as I'm seeing him partake in these drinks, that would be considered just disgusting by most people, and even to him, he's saying, this drink makes my face want to turn inside out. uh, that to me is like, that's modern day YouTube. That is modern day YouTube. You see the cuts, you see the B-roll, you see him walking into places, and he's not often walking into, a hotel or a bar and trying to be the coolest person there. I think he has a very not tongue in cheek, but a very self-deprecating humor, and I think he's very self-aware even very early on in the early seasons, in a way that I can only compare to somebody like Conan O'Brien, who's consistently self-deprecating himself and being the butt of the joke 100% of the time, most of the time. Well, not 100% of the time, but the majority of the time. That's something I really just see with Conan. And I think that Bourdain was very aware of who he was at that time. He was very aware of, okay, I'm going to pretend I'm this James Bond, most interesting man in the world figure, but he was also willing to leave in cuts of the locals making fun of him. He was not afraid to be the butt of the joke at that time. And it just made for a more interesting show. It made for a more interesting dynamic. I never really got the sense that he was bigger than every other place he went to. And I think that definitely started to show in his later show, Parts Unknown. You really saw the humility, you really saw the humbleness as he started to come into his own celebrity, because he had visited all these places, because he had eaten with people and broke bread with these people and enjoyed meals and had conversations about the political aspects of their country and the hard parts of their country. Um, Again, I just think it boils down to to not really a fact, but it just boils down to we just don't have that voice of reason anymore uh, in the public eye. We are kind of losing these people day in and day out. And I think that the difference between him then making this show that was like a vlog, and of course, he's the centerpiece of it, to now where we see vloggers doing it, you could throw a rock on YouTube and hit a vlogger that is making something like Bourdain and at a bigger scale. But the difference being is that I don't think a lot of these vloggers have developed that humility. I don't think a lot of vloggers have developed the humbleness. Some have. This isn't a general overgeneralization. Some have, but you just don't see that lack of ego that Bourdain had. And it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate because I think the quality of content absolutely has gone up in the past 15 years. And a big reason that we were able to see this vlog like gonzo, as a lot of people referred to it as, Bourdain said that was his inspiration for it, this gonzo filmmaking that Bourdain was going by, that had to take place on television at that time. Back in 07, 08, when this show came out, YouTube was really just like a place where at most you could upload a 10-minute video. I remember people saying like 10-minute videos are how you get monetized. Like you have to do a 10-minute video. And that was a long time for somebody to just go and make a video. But to do like 40 minutes was unheard of, especially because of, internet speeds and upload speeds. You definitely weren't going to upload a 1080p quality video onto the internet at that time, which I think Bourdain's show is only like at 720. But you definitely weren't uploading an HD video on YouTube in 2008. So something like that had to take place on the Travel Channel. I think Bourdain ultimately would have probably made a jump to the internet at some point, because he just would have had more freedom to do things like that. And go where he wanted to go and tell the stories he wanted to tell. But, those are just some thoughts that were going through my head as I was watching that first season of No Reservations. If you enjoyed this conversation, maybe I will talk more about No Reservations. And thank you so much for checking out Classroom Yaps. If you like this video, please consider liking, commenting, and subscribing, and I will catch you in the next one. Peace.